Welcome to the sixth and final instalment in our Ripehouse end-to-end investment system video series. What a journey! We here at Ripehouse hope you have found this series rich in information. Sincerely, well done on taking the time to learn and step up your investment game. We would really appreciate it if you could share this video on your social network of choice. And now we will be rounding out this video series discussing how we target the absolute prime property opportunities and leverage the distress of the vendor and key market signals to negotiate. Even if you are sitting in your office or on the other side of the nation, this is critical information, so why don't we jump straight in. Hi, I'm Jacob. I have been investing in property since the early 2000s and founded Ripehouse in 2011. After buying my first two properties in my local area, I moved to the big smoke and quickly lost my confidence. I turned my analysis paralysis into a tried and tested framework to work out why people live where they do and why they buy or rent property. This framework has evolved into what you see today. Ripehouse provides expert commentary, research reports and analysis tools. To hear a little more about my story, or if you have missed our introductory video, make sure to check out video 1 in this series. Remember what is possible with the Ripehouse investment system. 25% capital growth is our target in the first year. Before we dive into our property due diligence, why don't we perform a quick recap of the first 5 modules in this video series. If you haven't already seen these videos, I would encourage you to do so. To begin with, we discussed the importance of an end-to-end approach to our research and due diligence. Each component needs to work together to generate us outstanding results. We then discussed the fact that we need to be looking across the nation for our next investment. The chances are that the nation's next strongest boom area is going to be around the corner from our family home is slim to none. We looked at state versus state analysis and introduced you all to the property clock. Now the next 2 videos we've gone into the detail. We discussed how and why local government area analysis is the perfect mechanism for finding our next investment location. But we must ensure that the exact suburb is leading the charge forward in terms of growth for that local area. Then in video 5, we discussed how to really turn the screws to reliably and consistently find the exact street locations in your target suburb that will potentially amplify your investment results, to help and not hinder. A key component to our 25% growth in the first year end-to-end investment system. So with this all now refreshed, onto the final piece of the puzzle, the property identification itself, the actual property search. If we have done our job right in our due diligence through this video series, the LGA is one of the strongest boom areas in the nation. The suburb is firmly in its prime buying window, leading the charge for that local area. The street cluster is a distinct Ripehouse sweet spot with excellent buying signals. Our final task then is to identify which properties to turn our attention. Apart from being obviously available for sale, they may also and must also be physically located in the street clusters we have identified. These are just the basics. We need to be very confident the property and its characteristics will squarely match the type of property that the market is demanding, both to rent from us, but also to potentially purchase. We need the property to once again amplify our growth outcomes, to help and not hinder all the great work we have done to date. We have arrived at this boom location in our search because of outstanding growth signals, assumably caused by strong and increased demand and tight or limiting supply. In an emerging target local area, a similar demographic of residents tend to migrate to that area at the same time. Now, who are these residents? Well, we may not have to try and work out a profile for these new residents if we can skip to the back of the book, if we can view the cheat sheet. Our secret here at Ripehouse is to always look at the answers, and in this case we monitor the following. What is the most common and in-demand property type in the suburb? This gives you a bit of a hint about who and why people are moving to the area. That's all we need to know. The most common and in-demand property type in the suburb. We do this for 2 reasons. We don't want to be left holding a white elephant. Purchasing, say for example, the only house in the street filled with 2-bedder units. And we want to hit the Newfound demand from its migrating residents squarely between the eyes. We want to meet the market. This is a very important point. If we have a hypothetical budget of $400,000, we have found a stellar local area, suburban prime Ripehouse sweet spot cluster. Now we look at the makeup of the suburb. There are plenty of properties on the market in our target street sweet spot at our purchase price, but they are all two-bedder units. They all seem to be pretty stale. They have been on the market for a while. Some are even exhibiting strong vendor distress. They look great. They tick all the boxes, right? Well, they may, but the most in demand and most common properties in the suburban street that the newfound migrant population are moving towards are 3-bedroom houses. Here in this example, the vast majority of new residents to the area are young families attracted to the new tradie and service-based jobs. They generally have 2 or more kids, 2 cars, 1 a garage, maybe even a boat. We need to focus on them and purchase what they are demanding: 3 and 4 bedroom houses, 2 bars and 2 car spaces. But the problem for us is these types of properties in this suburb are $550,000, way out of our price range. This is not a case of close enough is good enough. We cannot force our strategy, our budget or preference onto the market. These new residents are moving to the area because they have jobs. They are happy to rent a more expensive property. They potentially will be very happy to buy a more expensive property in 6 to 12 months after renting first, and potentially drive up our property's value if we decide to hold. If our budget, as in this example, does not hit this target market, we cannot compromise. We need to find another area. We can't buy a 2-bedroom unit here. People are only demanding 3 or 4 bedroom houses. We need to go back to the beginning. We need to start again. So let's assume we now know which properties we need to be targeting. We've found there's a fit between our budget, those properties, and the area and what people are demanding. Each component of the Ripehouse end-to-end system is working together, amplifying growth from one stage into the next. So we now need to know how to decide and proceed on each property. Property negotiation and strategy is potentially, I guess, a topic for an entire web series alone. But for now, at a high level, we need to do 3 things. The first is to determine the level of vendor distress. We need to find a fair market appraisal for the property. Then we need to identify characteristics of that property and the location that we can leverage to potentially create doubt or pessimism in the listing and negotiate below our fair market appraisal. Remember, if we are buying in a very heated market, then we are going to struggle to create pessimism in the listing. But as we all know from the video series, we of course shouldn't be buying in a heated market. We should be investing before the masses. How do we gauge vendor distress? I guess this is a big question. In simple terms here at Ripehouse, we look at how long the property has been on the market, how the property price has changed over this time. Has it been discounted? How regularly? By how much? Has it flip-flopped from auction to private sale? Has it previously been on the market and taken off and then reappeared as a new listing? Once we have this information, we then look at the property and the location itself. We are trying to gather more information that we can use as justification for a lowball offer. Is there public housing in the street? What is the proximity to local amenities, and how may this impact the value of a property? We need to pick apart the floor plan, the fittings and fixtures, the condition, the fit with the market, the residents coming to it, the block, and many other factors. We are gathering this information to present to the agent along with our offer. We are positioning the conversation with the agent so they are not negotiating with us, but with the vendor themselves. We have 2 sets of comparable properties. One set of valid actual comparables that we are using to justify our appraised value in our eyes. The second set of comparables may be slightly inferior or slightly less recent. We are going to use this second set of comparables to justify our offer. We want to arrive at a situation where the agent is able to take our offer to the vendor along with a very compelling case as to why it should be accepted. Here at Ripehouse, we provide expert commentary, research reports and analysis tools. we challenge the status quo and have developed our analysis tools to, empower you to join the 1%, the investors whom just get it. An example of this, something we have conducted over the years, is extensive research into how the exact street location and proximity to key amenities impacts a property value and its growth potential. All Ripehouse appraisals look at these street and proximity factors when forming an appraisal. On this first chart, we can see that the concentration of public housing in a street area has a dramatic impact on property value, plus or minus 25%. We have analysed how key amenities impact property. Universities, schools, restaurants, hospitals, parks, the list goes on. Our research did reveal that although all amenities have some impact, it really is the big three. It comes down to shopping centres, schools and transport hubs. These are the only key amenities that have a consistent and dramatic impact on property value and growth. As you can see from these next three graphs, we know how far away from each is the optimum distance for your next purchase. Schools is around 250 to 500 metres. Shopping is out to 1 kilometre, and transport is close but not too close, out to around 1200 metres. A practical example, why don't we jump into the Ripehouse analysis tools to search for an outstanding property and negotiate for success. Okay, I'm going to be starting this demonstration using our street analysis tool. This is a map-based analysis tool available for you to navigate to via your main Ripehouse dashboard page. Okay, so we are assuming that we have already jumped into this page. I've loaded up my suburb of choice for the purposes of this demonstration only as Frankston. And I am going to be turning off this pop-up at the bottom of the page that is informing me that I have 2 days remaining on my free no obligation trial. So I'm going to close that there. Okay, I have previously in our module 5 of this series discussed how to find the Ripehouse sweet spot signals. So I will quickly reapply them to the page because our job now is to filter through the 184 properties that are currently on the market. Once again, we do gather these properties multiple times per day from multiple locations across Google, from large listing websites and smaller agent websites. We bring them to you in one place. Very importantly, we monitor on-market activity. So when they arrive on the market, how long they've been on the market, have they been discounted, have they flip-flopped, trying to gauge that vendor distress. Has it been listed and then taken off the market and put back on again? Once again, very key to this discussion is what is the most common and in-demand property type. So we are looking at 3-bedroom houses in this market. So we have to filter on-market properties into their physical street sweet spot locations, and we only want to be looking at 3-bedroom houses. So this is suited very closely to what we have been discussing in this module. There's 184 properties that this is now going through individually, one at a time, placing them into the street location, analysing if they are suitable for us or not. So it might take sometimes a few seconds, obviously with this loading now on the screen, to perform this function. We can see here in the background, which I'll be going into a little bit more detail in a moment, that the quartile pricing for the suburb, so median, lower and upper quartiles. You can see the individual property list here in the background, which I'll be showing you in a moment, how we can see how long properties have been on the market for and have they been discounted. And then we can obviously click on any of the red property icons on the map or within this property list to view more details about it and start our appraisal and negotiation due diligence for that property. I do apologise while this is loading. It might be my internet concerns as well, but it is going through a lot of information in this process. We are able to use these filters on this page to obviously match towards our strategy. If we may have a particular property preference type, obviously we don't want to be going against the grain within the suburb. We want to be meeting the market. If 3-bedroom houses really are the core of demand for this area, we really don't want to be going against it. Okay, this has now done our analysis. It's now identified only 23 properties that are remaining on the market. We have a median of these 23 properties of $550,000 and an average rent of $330 per week. Okay, we've now got a list of properties and they are sorted from low price to high price. We can change how they are ordered for each property on this list, which is also relates to a property on the map as a red dot. We can see how long they've been on the market for, so 21 days on the market. And we can also scroll obviously down to the bottom. A number of them are still under contract. We don't take them off this list until they do actually settle. We do feel sometimes they are on the market, they might fall through, their finance etc. might fall through. It is useful to still have them on this list. We can see some properties. This one here has a 10% bubble, green bubble next to the property. It's been on the market for 53 days and that means it's been discounted by 10% in that time. So let's click on the more information for that property. It is corresponding to a property on the map. It is 198 Heather Hill Road, Frankston. I don't own this property. I have no affiliation with it. This is just for the purposes of an example. You can see it is images for the property. You can look at the condition of the property. So we have an algorithm internally that looks at the sentiment of a listing, how it's been described by the agent. Obviously they're always positive, but we actually use artificial intelligence to dig into some of the keywords, how they describe the property, how other properties are described in the area, some of the features to determine the condition of the property. It's not always right, but it does learn from you. So if after looking at the images, talking to the agent, you disagree and you think it is only average condition, you can override it and it will get better next time. But more importantly, it will find valid comparables or more valid comparables based on the condition, the assessed condition of the property. Very important. There's no point basing your appraised value of a property on a comparable that is not valid. It is not in a similar condition with similar features. So for the purposes of this demonstration, let's just say that yes, we are right. It is in good condition. We can obviously see the original listing of the property. We can view photos, etc. there. We can go through and do all the normal stuff. So once again, it is reasonably well presented for sale. It is slightly dated, but it potentially is still in good condition for the suburb area. We are now going into our next stage, which is looking at the suburb area. This is quick look information around the suburb itself, quick look information around the street level area itself for our due diligence. We now click on the comparables tab. It's now going to go away and find our 5 most likely comparable properties. So remember, we are now trying to find a list of these properties that we feel might be inferior. We are finding a list of these properties that we feel are spot on. We can remove a property that we might find as inferior by viewing details of it. If we do determine that yes, it is inferior, we can remove it from the list and it's going to bring in our next most likely invalid comparable to this list. So this is how you can filter, find and construct a list of your top 5 most valid comparables for the purposes of appraisal. But you can also obviously see many or all other comparable properties for the suburb and this particular property and view those details and keep those as your second set of comparables to justify our offer. It's going to now take our average list of our top 5 into the appraisal phase now. A very important part of this process because it's now going to be applying a level of street level filtering to the appraised value. You can remember back to how school, shopping, transport and public housing impact appraised value. This is actually applying this to us automatically here. So if we're coming into it with a base valuation of 610 based on our comparables and condition analysis, it's now potentially discounting this by about 10% because of its location. Very important. It is a really strong tool to be used when negotiating with the agent. You can also see appraised rent and yield for each property. So I hope you can see the power of this. You are able to perform this analysis for every on-market property, but every other property that you might have in your portfolio or are just interested in knowing more about its appraised value. Wow, what a journey. Well done on completing this video series. We hope you have learned and absorbed a new way of thinking and investing in property. Both myself and the team here at Ripehouse sincerely thank you for taking the time to learn together, to move forward in our investment journey. To help other investors potentially take the next step forward on their journey, can we ask a small favour? If you have found this content to be useful, can you quickly hit the share link to the right or below and share this with your social network of choice. Once again, if you haven't already done so, why don't you take us for a no obligation free trial? We just need your basic details to get started. Head over to the homepage at Ripehouse, www.ripehouse.com.au for more details. Stay tuned for other more advanced video modules and our regular live masterclass events. Until then, happy investing.